everybody, welcome back to my habitat. We are in a basement back storage room and not in the kitchen today, and that is because I am starting seeds today, and this is really the start of a larger conversation that I'm wanting to start with you guys and share with you too is gardening. I am an avid gardener. I love gardening, specifically more in the kind of direction of food, but as of last year I actually started a lot more flowers, and I'm also getting really into that, and that's actually what we're going to be sowing mostly today is flowers and tea flowers, so flowers that I can harvest and dry and use in teas. Let's jump right into it because I have quite a few seeds that I want to start, and I want to talk about each one right before I sow them. I already have my trays laid out here, pre-marked of where everything's going to go. And let's jump in right onto the first one. The first seeds that I'm starting, I'm going to start with the most boring ones. And they're not really boring, they're kind of fun. And it's just kale. I have this Tuscan kale. It's also called Dino kale. It's a bit more of a rougher, bumpier leaf kale. And then I also have a red Russian kale. Of course, the leaves are more red. Still a very deep green, but they definitely have those nice red tones in them, which also makes it a really pretty ornamental in like the flower garden. But I'm going to be using it to harvest and to eat. I'm going to be overall sowing 6 of each type. I'm starting them a bit early, and that's simply because I want these to go out into my front yard and backyard earlier in the season. So I actually have something inside the garden bed that looks good and will continue to grow. And I can't necessarily do that with a lot of the other things because the kale can handle colder weathers where a lot of the flowers can't. So the next ones that I'm going to be showing you are some pretty flowers. Now these are just going to be going out into my front yard or backyard, not fully sure on some of them yet, to just give some beauty into the garden. I think it's really, really important whenever you're planting a garden, and especially if you're doing it for production, so for food, to plant something beautiful there. Not only will it attract pollinators and, you know, hopefully act as a deterrent plant for pests, but I find if you have something pretty in the garden to look at, you're more likely to be drawn to the garden. And the best thing for the garden is the presence of a gardener. So if you're there, even if you're just looking at flowers, you might notice, you know, a weed's popping up and you'll pick it. So I always really highly suggest going and putting something beautiful in the garden that you're going to be able to go and enjoy. But getting us started on these seeds, first one is Love Lies Bleeding Amaranth, a very, very common plant. If you've never seen this in person, it is beautiful. I grew it last year for the first time from seed, and it blew my mind. I actually didn't put it in the front yard because I didn't know what it was going to look like. And I put it in the backyard, but I fully regret it because it is such a showstopper. You look at it and it's like, oh my God, what is this? You want to like go and you want to touch the long strands that are their flowers, and it's stunning. So that is definitely one. I'm going to be growing about 6 of these, and I'll be putting them in the front yard and in the back so I can see them everywhere I go. I have Ruby Parfait Celosia, which is a very pretty little small pink spike, great for picking flowers, great as like it's an amazing filler, so beautiful, lovely structure. And related to that, I have another type of celosia that I actually found in a store as a dried flower. And I was like, I wonder if I kind of tip that over, brush the flower a little bit, if it would give me seeds. And it did. So I took those seeds and I just kind of put them in this napkin. I have not very many. I have about like 40 seeds, but that's still quite a bit for celosia. One plant will give you thousands of seeds. This celosia, if you've ever seen the flowers that are like a fan shaped, they're flat and they kind of are all roughly at the top. That's the flower I'm talking about. I really hope they germinate, because if they don't germinate this year, I'm probably going to go out and buy seeds for next year because they look beautiful and I'm really excited to have them in my bouquets this year. The rest of these flowers are going to be for teas, so I'm going to harvest the flowers for teas or other parts of the plant. The first one is Szechuan buttons. Also known as the toothache plant or the eyeball plant. Plant's a lot shorter, only about a foot tall, and it spreads up to 18 inches. So that's a pretty good spread for this plant. for it being shorter. But the main reason why people grow this is because, like it's one of its names, the toothache plant, it numbs your mouth. Like, people would use this as a medicinal plant, chew on the leaves if they had a toothache, and your mouth goes numb. Now, I've seen examples of this on quite a bit on YouTube of people chewing the plant or steeping the leaves to make a tea, and it gives you kind of a tingly sensation in your mouth. But if you chew on the leaves, you get that full effect. So I'm gonna try it. I think it'd be really, really fun to mix in some drinks to give the drinks a kind of a cool effect. Also look really cool. They're little yellow gumball shaped flowers that have a brown dot in the center. Also, one of the reasons why people also call it the eyeball plant, because they look like little eyeballs. So cool one there. I'm gonna be planting 2 cells of that. So that is 12 plants. Butterfly pea Thai double blue. Bit of a mouthful, but this is a very popular one in the last few years for a tea flower. It's said to be stronger than chamomile in its ability to put someone to sleep. The seeds, before you sow these seeds, you have to pre-soak them overnight in water. So that's what I've done here. They're still sitting in the water. But pretty much what I'm going to do is harvest the flowers, the blooms from this plant, and I'm going to dry them, have them over the winter. But this tea that you get out of these, very much like the flowers, becomes blue. And if you squeeze lemon juice in it and make it more acidic, it turns purple, very much like a little piece of, like a pH strip almost. So that's going to be a lot of fun to see and to try and to play around with. There's also a lot of recipes using this as a natural blue food dye, and I'm all about that. So that's going to be a lot of fun to play around with. Anise hyssop. Okay, so this one is a pretty cool one. Also a tea flower. Has a lot of sweet licorice flavors in it. I believe it is a part of the mint family, so it's going to be a very vigorous grower. Also a tender perennial, so it might stay over the winter. I'm going to have to reseed it, but I'm very excited just because I hear the tea from this plant is delicious, and it also has these really beautiful flowers, which I'm really excited to harvest and use in bouquets as well. So this is kind of a double duty plant where I can use it as a filler in bouquets and drink it as well. My last 2 tea flowers I'm going to be talking to you about, I'm going to tell you also how I'm going to sow them, because they're sown a little bit differently than the rest of what I'm planting today. Next I'm going to be growing is chamomile, very popular flower. A lot of people drink chamomile tea. If you've never grown chamomile tea, I urge you to grow it. It's pretty easy as the plant goes. It's not fussy. Once you kind of have the plants established, I didn't have to do much to them. Even watering, I kept them in fabric pots. Didn't have to do much to them. I watered them probably about twice a week, and they produced like mad. I will say, if you do not harvest on the daily, the plant will stop producing flowers, so you have to keep up on it, but it gives you so much, and it's such a pretty plant to begin with. It's very light and airy, the overall look of the plant. Agastache. Either way, it looks like a beautiful plant. Also a tea flower. This one is perennial though. It comes up with very pretty orange flower spikes that and the flowers kind of almost trumpet out in these really pretty orange flowers. Apparently it's another one that tastes slightly licoricey, which I'm a big fan of. Can get up to 3 feet tall. So if you're planning this to be a perennial, give it some space. I'm going to be growing 6 of these. I might not use all 6. I might give some to either my dad or mom or even a neighbor. But I've seen these plants online. They look gorgeous, even just as a perennial. And also, they're good as a cut flower, which I'm very excited for another nice orange filler, because this year I do not have much orange in my garden. So this is where the orange is going to come from. Okay, so the reason why I put these together for the planting is because you don't plant these like all the other seeds. All the other seeds are planted the way I think most of us were taught to plant seeds, which is you put a seed in the ground, you cover it with a little bit of soil, and you water it and let it grow. Now you water and let these grow, but they don't want to be covered with soil. They need light to germinate. So what I'm going to do is actually press on, here, I'll take these out. What I'm going to do is just on my little seed tray here, I'm going to press the soil down lightly so it's slightly firm. And then I'm going to place the seed in the cell and cover with just a little bit of vermiculite. Now vermiculite, if you've never seen it before, it's a very light, coarse, kind of almost styrofoam-esque material. And that will let enough light through to the seeds to let them germinate, but it will also help preserve water in the soil so the seeds aren't drying out. I'm just giving everything a final spray with just water. I'll probably continue to use the spray bottle to water until I start seeing some germination happening. And then at that point, I will put this down because this will get very strong forearms, you know, doing this every day. As the plants will grow, I'm going to start bottom watering them because they're all inside of these flat trays and they're just in cells. And so I'll pour water in the base of each tray. The cells will absorb the water, and that's how I will water them. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video because I love making this kind of content. This was a lot of fun. It was really easy to talk about all these different flowers. I had a lot of fun today, and I'm really excited to see these grow. Also, one other thing, I quickly Googled the eyeball plant, and it actually says it's good to have light to germinate. So I did the same thing with the vermiculite on top, and I surface sowed them. And I'm just really excited to watch these grow. I'll probably do some updates as these continue. I have a lot of other things I need to start. These are just things that these are the first things I'm starting, I should say. I want to thank you guys for watching. Till next time, stay planting.